Don't you call yourself the white Russell Simmons?
They call me the white Russell Simmons. I never label myself none. People say, yo, you're the white Russell Simmons. Run-DMC and Jam Master Jay. We just built a great relationship. Every tour bus I got on with Bone Thugs and Harmony. Every time I was on private planes with Sean Kingston. Every time I jumped in vans with Fat Joe driving around this country because he wouldn't fly. So I sacrificed my life every day I leave my house to build my relationships. Nipsey Hussle was the smartest artist I've ever worked with. So, it was a sad situation. And Nip, it's sad because he's bigger dead than alive. And now they're keeping his legacy alive to do other things, right? Mm-hmm. But why, when he was alive, you didn't show him the love? I hate death, but I know we're here once, and that's why we got to make the best of it. Mm-hmm. And you got to love your loved ones and love the people who really love you and have balance, because I never had balance. But I can't cope with it. Yeah. But I closed the door when no one's around, and I cried. And they were like, yo, we want to open a store, we want to call cookies. And Berner was like, I'm not interested.
When you meet these monumental superstars, or when you get these good situations, why do you think you're always in the right place at the right time? What's good, everybody? It's your guy, JoJo Simmons, and welcome to the For Good podcast, where we focus on the good, never the bad, where we're measured on what we do and not what we have. Today, I'm honored to have hip-hop legend Steve Lobel, a longtime friend of the Simmons family. And, you actually got your start working in music, basically, with my pops, right? Rev Run of Run-DMC?
Yes. First of all, thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you for being
I don't like to sit down and do interviews in the last couple of years.
You're my uncle.
I can't say no to you, and once I get my word, I'm stuck to it. But yes, your dad, first of all, your uncle is my idol and my mentor, Uncle Russ. And your dad put me in the game. Shout out my man Rev, Run, Joe, Joey, so on and so forth.
Don't you call yourself the white Russell Simmons?
They call me the white Russell Simmons. I never label myself none. People say, yo, you're the white Russell Simmons.
Hey. So first of all, I want to remind everybody, and I know because, when I asked Steve to sit down with me, you made me promise you no bullshit questions.
Nah.
And I want to remind everybody, this is a positive podcast. I want to celebrate you and the people who are really for good in this community, inspired people. I think every time I see you sit down with other people, when you rarely do podcasts, but you do them occasionally, you drop gems. And that's kind of, what I wanted from you. Like, I call you sometimes personally and ask you questions, for years, even about when I got into music management, I asked you about that, and you gave me some really good advice that we could discuss later that actually I've implemented in how I move in music. And just, even times where I used to just come out here to shoot the show and you'd say, yo, my studio's your studio, whatever you want. So, just want people to know, when Steve says he's a family of the Simmons and he's close to us, he's real when he says that. He does know all of us. He does show us so much love and always constantly showing up as an uncle to me. So I want to commend you for that and appreciate you for showing up.
Thank you so
much.
In
that space for me.
I know all the houses you grew up in. I watch you grow up, and I love it.
Appreciate that. Let's talk. So Steve, your journey through hip hop is legendary, obviously. For those who don't know, can you share how Jam Master Jay got you in the game?
I mean, I would say Run-DMC and Jam Master Jay, At the end of the day, rest in peace to my man Mustafa. Rest in peace to my man Ronnie Ray. Rest in peace to my man Marvin, who was Jay's brother. Just being around those guys, the 80s.
Who'd you have the relationship first? Was it Jay? Out of the whole group?
Well, look,
because I did some research. We did some research. It looks like you were probably closer or knew Jay before you knew Run-D, would you say?
Well, your dad, he wasn't really outside like that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He wasn't hanging out like that. He's the king, but he wasn't outside like that. Even though he'd frequent some of my bars and my clubs. DMC was outside, but, me and Jay just clicked. And, we worked on so many things together. Again, he's been throughout a lot of things, part of my life, honestly, I can get really deep because it's you. It was one day I had, I was with a girl I was engaged to, and she's a supermodel. She was in Australia, and, she was going to have my baby. And I didn't call her for 3 days, and she got an abortion. I never really spoke about this.
Wow.
And I probably would have a son or a daughter, probably 18 years old now. And she told me, you didn't call me for days, and she had got an abortion. And I was like that, man. Being in this music industry, you get just caught up. and there's no balance, and you're just focusing on all types of things, and you're like, I'll call right back, but then you're caught up and you can't talk because you're on stage and music's loud. It's a weird business, right? And when you're up, they're asleep, so on and so forth. And I was really depressed and down. I was with Jay. We were at the Mondrian Hotel on Sunset, and I don't even drink. I took a whole bottle. And he was like, yo, bro, this is not your blah, blah, blah. This is not your blah, blah, blah. This is your love. You're supposed to communicate, bro.
Right.
And it's your fault, you know, and I was down on myself for that, you know. Jay loved the Knicks, loved the Giants. We'd go to games a lot. Jay would always come to my bar and eat. I had a bar and restaurant, Union Turnpike. Even your dad performed there with DMC and Jay. We just built a great relationship, man. Like I said, organically. You know, Jay was the first one I met that I would go to his condo in the city, and he had carpet on his walls. He had green carpet on his walls. Like people have wallpaper and paint. He had carpet. You know, but again, like, you know, me and Jay just did different things. We were really cool. So, you know, he wanted me to discover a white rapper for an exercise song that Sticky Fingers wrote, and Jay was going to produce, and they used my bar to cast the white rapper. And then we took it to Sony Relativity, which led me getting a job at Sony, where I met the Fat Joes and the MOPs and the Beatnuts, and the list goes on. So again, like, all of them are family, man. But I think more relationship was with Jay because he was outside and so on and so forth.
So speaking about Jay and him giving you that good advice, how important was it for you to have the right people and like mentors around you at that time, or even as you came up in the music world?
You know, I always tell people, like, without a mentor, you could get lost. And I mentee a lot of people, and a lot of people don't even know. Say, yo, you were my mentor. I watched you, I mimicked you. You know, and that's good. And you're my mentor. And then I've helped so many people as a mentor. But me coming up, man, it was trials and tribulations and learn as you go. When you fall and you trip. You know, my dad, you know, he just turned 91. Everybody knows my dad, loves my dad, OG Ted. He wasn't around a lot. I was a mama's boy. I was close to my mom. And my dad wasn't really there to mentor me. All he taught me, though, was loyalty and integrity, principles, morals, and respect.
The Queen's way.
And I lived like that. But he always said, if you want that BMX bike, go get a job. So I started bussing tables, waiting tables, delivering newspapers, shoveling snow, raking leaves. He said, you want that YZ125? Go get a job. You wanted that first 77 Cutlass Supreme with the T-tops? Go get a job. Pops never gave me nothing. He taught me to go work for it, you know? So I looked at him, fast forward, decades later, he was a mentor. But me getting in the music industry and wanted to be in the music industry, I idolized your uncle, Russell. And I was like, I just want to be like him. And he was a mentor from far because, you know, I'd be around, but I wouldn't be around. I felt like I would learn from afar. So that's how I really did. I'm a high school dropout. I'm a college dropout. I'm self-made. I'm self-taught. I couldn't sit in school because I was drinking orange sodas and Snicker bars in the morning, and that sugar knock you off the wall. Don't give your kids soda or sugar, man. Just water. Seriously, it had me bouncing off the wall, so I couldn't really sit in school. And even to get bar mitzvahed, you know, in the Jewish religion, when you become a man is when you're 13. I was bar mitzvahed, and I had to get a tutor. Yeah, you know, I just couldn't sit. I was drinking soda too much and eating sugar. So, Mom, I love you, but you shouldn't have gave me that. So, again, you know, I'm self-made and self-taught. And just learned. And you learn from experience. That's the only way. And, you know, from knowledge. So I learn every day. I'm still learning. I just turned 59. I'll be 60 this year. I'm still learning from different things. You got to throw it out there and see what's going to come back. So, you know, I was mentored, but I was mentored the way I want to be mentored from afar. No one would say, do it this way, do it that way. I had to learn about a lot of things on my own.
So, do you have any memorable stories from being on the road with my pops in the early days, or Run-DMC as a whole, as a group? What's a good, memorable story you can tell me that you haven't told me? I
mean, there's a crazy story, man. Rest in peace to my man, Mustafa, man. It's sad that I have to say rest in peace on a lot of people because, you know, people my age are passing away from different reasons, right? And I just experienced a real health issue, and I almost passed away, and I'm alive to talk about it. But, you know, it's what we eat, and we have to exercise, and so many people are passing away. But my man Mustafa, rest in peace, man. Straight from Queens, man, you know. Been on Rikers Island, been up north. Big ass hands, your dad will tell you about that. And we drove to North Carolina in a van. We used to get vans from Massapequa, Long Island, a place called Fantastic. People from the 80s and 90s would know that place. And we went on the road and we went to North Carolina, and we had to park the van in their parking spot, locked up. And Smith would set up this backdrop, like an old English thing, and you would do Polaroid pictures in front of it. You know the Polaroid pictures? And they would charge for the picture, and you take a picture in front of oldie. I forgot my other man's name from Hollis that was doing it too, but Smith, I remember that. So we were all out there, and next thing you know, a little fight broke out because guys from there, and I always tell people, like, any city you go, there's street dudes, there's gangsters.
Everywhere, yeah.
There's guys that might be not as tough as you, but they tough, and they got that city on lock. And they just felt like, man, we ain't paying for that. But from where from, we're like, okay, but you got to pay. So a little conversation started happening, got escalated, and we got closed in this club, and we got closed in to get the van out. And my man Mustafa was not security, but he could be security, and he was ready to fight everybody. And I stood on top of the table, and I thought it was a Karate Kid. So I'm standing there making a karate pose. I'm screaming, yelling like I'm a karate martial arts expert. I'm ready to knock you all out. And by the grace of God, we got out of there. We got the keys back to the van.
Because you was the Karate Kid. You put the leg up.
Yeah,
they knew.
Martial arts
White boy
expert.
not playing.
And we got the keys finally. We got out of there. And that was a story to laugh
Daniel
about.
LaRusso over here. That's funny.
That was a crazy story.
That was a good story.
That was probably like.
Would my pops remember that?
He should. Maybe he was in the dressing room.
Yeah.
He wasn't front line though. You know, Pops.
Yeah, I mean
he had a lot to lose. Man, he wasn't front, and he shouldn't be front line.
Right, ever.
That's the money.
Yeah.
That's the artist. That's the boss.
Right.
They should not be front line. I think Jay might have been front line because Jay was that type of dude.
Mm-hmm. All right. So as my team and I build a community of change makers with for good, what advice can you give me on growing an audience, and how do you differentiate between a real fan base that truly resonates with your mission or just casual followers?
Well, first of all, you mentioned team, right? A lot of people don't even know what a team means. Team means together, everyone achieves more.
Right.
There's no I in team.
Mm-hmm.
There's no. Even though I said I earlier for certain things, but, LeBron, Jay-Z, no one does it by themselves. Mm-hmm. You have to have people smarter than you around you.
Always.
You have to have, depending on what business you're in, a lawyer. Mm-hmm. We're not lawyers. We don't sign contracts or paperwork that we don't know about. That's the lawyer's job. And the lawyer works for us, so we tell the lawyer what to do. Yeah. Let's say music. You could have 6 million followers on Instagram, and you drop a record, and you sell 2%. A lot of people follow people because of the way they look, the stuff they show. Mm-hmm. Guys are following females because of the way they look.
Right.
Vice versa. So you really can't know until you really do the due diligence on data.
Right.
Because they say women lie, but numbers don't lie.
Right.
So I always base it on like, okay, you got all these followers, but you drop a record and you don't stream. Something's off here. And again, organically building a fan base or any ecosystem that you're in, to me is great. Like, I'd rather be on cruise control with my life and my career than have a high and then a low and never be high again.
Right.
But if you could stay consistent and relevant, which is the hardest thing, without selling your soul, without selling your integrity and your morals, which is very hard to stay relevant. But again, like, you just throw out things and the data don't lie. Like in certain businesses I'm in, you can't pull it over. So I'm in the cannabis business. I don't look at how many people came a day, how many new customers we came a day,
right.
how many new patients came a day,
right.
And then how did they come?
How do you keep them?
How'd they come? How'd they hear about us? What's going to make them come back? How are we going to keep them coming back instead of going to multiple other dispensaries? You get it? So the agenda is in what's in the data.
Right.
The data is key to everything because you have P&Ls,
right.
You could exit a business. But if you're in a business, you don't keep P&Ls and you don't pay your taxes and you don't show things of how it is and your cost and your profit and loss, how are you going to do it?
Yeah.
So the data is everything. But again, music, let's just say music. We're doing a podcast right now. It's views. And then with the views, then will come sponsorships. And they run it in between different average parts of the podcast, so on and so forth. But I'm organic. I don't like to talk to people and they say, well, I'm an influencer and I got 20 million followers. I'm like, what's your resume? What's your stripes? What have you really done?
Right.
I'm not with the viral, the clout, the moment.
Right.
I'm for the legacy, the future, the outcome, the gain, the knowledge, the experience, what we taught someone and what came back.
Not just that viral moment, but how long can you stick around? Can you continue to do it? And are you just chasing a moment, or are you chasing a whole kind of situation for yourself?
I'm living for moments, but I'm not living for clout. I'm not living for viral, because I don't think there's no future in that.
Nope.
I think that you could, see someone win a Grammy at the moment because they got a big record, but are they around 10 years, 20 years? Are they really big in building their legacy? But they're probably not, because no one's teaching them that.
Right.
So with me, if I'm saying music, I'm going to lead up to that big record. I'm going to start, I'm going to work away and build bricks.
Yeah.
A lot of people want it overnight, and success don't happen overnight.
You got to build.
You got to build it. If you really got the talent, you really think there's a future in it, you're going to build it from the scratch up.
All right, now, you've seen the best of times, and you've also faced some hard losses, from Eazy-E to Jam Master Jay and Nipsey Hussle, right? How do you cope when tragedy strikes? Like, how do you cope with that? What practices or routines do you rely on to keep a resilient mindset after losing people so close to you? Like I said, Eazy-E, Jam Master Jay, Nipsey Hussle.
Man, there's a time to live and there's a time to die. I don't want to die, but unfortunately, we're going to die. With all due respect to those guys, I lost my brother at 33 years old. I lost my mother. I had the biggest regrets in my life because my mom would always call me to come home for everything, but being in the music industry, there's no balance. And I was traveling, I was working, I just couldn't make it home. When she passed, I realized, like, wow, I wish I could rewind and have my mom back. The crazy thing is, I lost a dog that saved my life when my mother died. I went to commit suicide. So I lost death in a lot of things. And when my brother died, the worst thing is to watch your parents bury a child. It's supposed to be the other way around.
Yeah.
And when we buried my brother, it was the first time I've been to a cemetery. My dad bought a lot of cemetery plots. So we went to bury my brother, and I saw a tombstone. And it said, Baby Lobel. And I was like, what's this? So weeks after my brother passed, I would ask my mom and dad, like, what's going on here? And they said, well, we never told you. But my mom had a miscarriage, and the baby died in the toilet. My dad had to take it out of the toilet. They never got to name it. And they buried it at the cemetery. And I started realizing, like, my brother used to always suffocate me, handcuff me, lock me in a room, beat me up. I have this scar on my nail and my thing. He did that to me. And he was doing all that because, not that he hated me, he just thought that I was the mistake why that baby died, because that baby would have been born and I don't think I would be here. So I think he took out all his frustrations on me. But I found this out later in life when my brother died, and I was mentally fucked up, telling my parents, like, wow, why'd you hold us in? So I hate death. I just recently lost my dad's brother, my uncle. Right before New Year's, I lost my aunt, who she considered me as her son. And then we could talk about Eazy's, we could talk about Jam Master Jay's, we could talk about
but how do
the
you
Nipsey
cope with
Hussles.
it? Have you coped with it, or you feel like
people that were close to me,
do you feel
how
like
do I cope with it?
You feel like you kind of just keep moving on in life?
Nah. I've never seen my dad cry. And I've been around my dad many deaths, and he just holds it in. And he closes the door when no one's around, and he'll cry. He's just built different, And I think I'm built like that. And
Steve, it's what you know. It's what you saw, and it's what you were raised on. That's how you cope with it. Is you kind of, you're not gonna let everybody see it, but in your own time and space is when you kind of deal with it and think about all of those things.
Crying is good.
Yeah, I think
the most strongest people cry. I just don't like letting people see me cry, but I cry every day, and I should be crying because of joy and what I have and what I've been through.
Right.
But sometimes I cry because I miss people, and I'm like, damn, where are they at? Because I spent so much time in the music industry that I didn't get to spend time with those loved ones and the family that I wish I had them now, while I could do the freedom and do the things I want to do with them. And that's why I spent a lot of time with my father. The first time I see my dad cry was at Yankee Stadium last year when they honored him as a veteran.
Wow.
And he cried and said, I can go to my grave now. And it was so emotional for me, I started crying with him. but I hate death, but I know we're here once, and that's why we got to make the best of it. Mm-hmm. And you got to love your loved ones and love the people who really love you, and have balance, because I never had balance. But I can't cope with it. Yeah. But I close the door when no one's around, and I cry. And I cry buckets of tears. Yeah. I just feel like I can't do it a lot in front of people because it might show a sign of weakness.
It's a vulnerable state for men.
Even though I'm not weak.
Right.
But, I think I've broken down a few places and in front of a few people on some deep conversations.
It's deep, man. And that's the way you cope with it. Is kind of what you said.
I know you're mentioning people who passed away that I worked with or became my friends.
But you're talking about personal family.
Yeah, like it's hard, man. Yeah. Death is so everybody out there, man. There's a time to live, there's a time to die, there's a time to laugh, and there's a time to cry. Love is pain. Pain is love.
Speaking of people you work with, I wanted to talk Nipsey Hussle real quick. I love to hear the story of how you met him at the liquor store. Why do you think you always end up in the right place at the right time, Steve, when you meet these monumental superstars, or when you get these good situations? Why do you think you're always in the right place at the right time?
It's God. Everything happens for a reason. God puts you in these places and positions for the reasons he thinks of, right? Everything is written. Everything is meant to be. Right. It was God. I didn't meet Nip at the liquor store. We went to a liquor store to pull out a DVD on a hanger to go watch the DVD. And then when we watched the DVD at one of the homies' houses, I'm like, who's that? They said Nipsey Hussle. I'm like, wow, I love that name. And he looked like Snoop. I'm like, I got to meet the guy.
So you saw his DVD at a liquor store.
How it really is, and I've told a story, and I try to, get to it. Big U came up from the penitentiary. Yep. I didn't know who he was. I've been in L.A. since '93. I came with EZ. My man Mustafa was with me. Rest in peace again, my man Mustafa. We were at the Powerhouse, Power 106. We were on the wall. The wall was on the back of us, backstage. This big guy was coming towards us. I said, yo, move, we on point. We stay on point. We move militant. And they came over, and he started talking to me, and he says, I'm from such and such. I'm like, okay, great, but I don't know what that means. I'm from New York. Started talking, and I was engaged to his wife's cousin's niece, the same young lady who was would have my baby.
Wow.
That's how crazy. And that's fast forward.
Wow.
That's way fast forward, because she never mentioned.
What a connection.
She never mentioned none of that lifestyle. I don't even think she even knew him. Right. But her dad was from Denver Lane. He was locked up for 22 years. Her mom passed away when she was a kid. Her grandmother raised her, but she never talked like that. And I'd be in Inglewood every day at her grandma's house. Wow. I didn't even know I was in the hood, and I didn't even know I was in the gang culture. So I didn't make a long story short. He's like, yo, take my number. And we would go every day down to his community. And we would get CDs and listen to them. And my guy Mexican Sean that I had gone to a meeting, and he was listening to all these CDs. And on the CD it says Slauson Boys. And he was like, yo, you got to check this out. And it was a song called I Don't Give a F. And on that CD, just the Magic Marcus Slauson Boys, and it was Hoods to Rob on there, Cobby Supreme, Cudgy Capone, and Nipsey. So we went back, told him this. He's like, hold on, blah, blah, blah. And then Kev Mack, who's Cowboy, he came. He's like, we got to go to the liquor store. We got the DVD with a hanger. They were selling DVDs back then. Shout out Nipsey's brother, Black Sam. He was big selling those DVDs back in the days. Rest in peace, Fats. And, he had him pull up. And he pulled up, and Nip knew who I was because he studied the music industry, but he was big locally in his neighborhood. And that's when I met, everybody around him and his family. And from there, he went to every label. They all said, he looks like Snoop, the music's whack. A lot of these A&Rs that, still around, and we'd laugh about it, but there's nothing to laugh about because, when you believe in something, you go with your gut. And that's their opinion. They didn't see it. I saw something. Right. Just like if I see in this person, I believe in it. So, but we all have opinions. Opinions like assholes. We all got them, right? And I just kept pushing the line and went to all the labels. And there's a verse in Keys to My City that Nip wrote, because we went to Dre, we went to Capitol, we went to Def Jam, went to all of them. He says it. I'm not saying it. He says, Def Jam passed, Capitol 2. No, Dre passed, Capitol, Def Jam 2. My brother Sam had some time to do. Yeah, Steve's cool, Big U's an animal, but we still did what we had to do because no one believed, except people around him. So, it was a sad situation. I always say this, like, we need to give people their flowers when they're alive, not when they pass. And we're all guilty to it. Someone passes, want to run to the gram and post a picture. And to me, that's terrible. So I tell people when they're alive, I love you, I appreciate you. I try to post, respect them. And Nip, it's sad because he's bigger dead than alive. And now they're keeping his legacy alive to do other things, right? But why, when he was alive, you didn't show him the love? And we do that with a lot of people. Not me, but the world, the industry and stuff. But Nip was the smartest artist I've worked with. And he called me Maniac Lobel.
Yep.
And we had a different relationship. A lot of people have different relationships with Nip. I was watching an interview the other day with Johnny Shipes and Slowbucks, and they were like, yo, Steve, I walked in the Hollisberger Off spot. Orville's a gentleman now in Shreveport, helping 50. And he used to work for Adidas. And I brought Nip to Hollisberger, 2-3rd, and Hollis, right on Jay's mom's block. And we were shooting a video there. And I had Nip in Queens. And shout out Bo Skaggs, Jay's nephew, he was there. My man Dirty was there. And we were shooting a video. And then Slowbucks walked in, I introduced them, and they became tight, So I had Nip in the hood in Queens, legendary Hollis, Queens, where a lot of rappers come out of, just like he had me in his hood when we started working with each other. So different individual, man. Rest in peace, Nip.
I think all artists need to take a gem from what you just said in the beginning, that Nipsey did his research on the music game and knew who you were when he ran into you. And I think a lot of artists, they always want to be around another rapper or think they're going to, but they need to be doing their research on the people that actually make the moves, pull the strings, and are in these offices. Because when you're in a situation, when you run into a Steve Lobel, you got to be ready. And Nipsey sounded like he was ready, he was prepared, and he was ready to kind of show you what he had.
He's a student.
Yeah.
He's a student of the game, and he knew, because remember, back then there's no social media. So I just said it in an interview, and they just posted it the other day. I said, stop chasing rappers in a club. They're there for different reasons. They're not going to put you on.
They're there to get
Learn
paid.
who's who in the business. But back then, people would stand out Relativity Records where I worked, and they would hope to see someone, but they didn't know what they looked like. There was no Google. All you bought is a CD, and it said A&R'd by Steve Lobel or A&R'd by Blase, 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 and they'd be standing outside the record company with a boombox hoping to see the A&R. Right. So there was ways to study and do different things, but I was tripping that he knew me, but he studied the game from whatever knowledge he was able to get back then. And important. You should learn and educate you on who people are. But unfortunately, this generation don't do that. Right. And I'm going to tell you something that happened yesterday. I was at the Grammys, and I saw Babyface. And that's an icon. That's a legend. Yep. And I love the song that he just put out with Fat Joe. He featured on Fat Joe's record. And shout out my brother Fat Joe and the whole Terror Squad. Rest in peace, Pun. I used to drive around the country in a van with them from Fantastic. And I introduced Joe to his wife, if you didn't know that. Joe's wife is from Queens. You've told me that before, yeah. She's from Queens, and Joe
I was just on a plane with Fat Joe a few weeks ago.
Oh, okay. It's family, man. Yeah, I love Joe. And everybody thinks he exaggerates his stories. He doesn't. I was there for a lot of those stories.
Everything's real.
Everything is.
I'm not to say that I was there.
And I was there. I know Joe since 93. I was there when he had nothing, And rest in peace to his brother. I just went to the funeral. But, Babyface, I saw him at the Grammys, and I wanted to salute him. You know what I'm saying? If I see people that I haven't seen or I nearly never met, I want to salute. So I went to salute him. And we took a pic. Everybody's like, Steve got the best throwbacks and pics and stuff like that. But that's just from always having a camera. But when I leave the Grammys, I see that these girls were interviewing him. Yeah, and they saw someone who they thought was bigger or more relevant at the time, and they dropped everything and disrespect him. Yep. That to me is total disrespect. I'm going to post a picture with Babyface, and I'm going to write a caption because I have a thing called Hip Hop Don't Know You. If you don't know who people are, if you're a white rapper and you don't know who Third Base is or the Beastie Boys or Eminem is, Hip Hop don't know you. So you're interviewing Babyface. You probably don't know one song from him. You're just interviewing him. You drop everything to go interview, and he just ones you and says, you know what? Go get that.
Go do that. That was his quote.
And at the end of the day, it's disrespectful. And this is what I mean. The new generation, a lot of these media-based people, a lot of these labels, they letting these young people in.
They're becoming too out of touch.
And out of place. And they're coming in with a little phone. They want to interview people, and they really don't know really who they're interviewing, or they don't know who the person is, or how legend they are, or iconic they are, and they're looking for the moment, what's relevant at the time. And I hate that. I think anybody who's going to pick up a camera and interview people should know who people are.
Yeah.
And if you do catch someone on a red carpet and you might not know, well, then pass on it instead of looking like an idiot.
Right.
I sat down with someone years ago and interviewed me. I'm like, yo, you're interviewing me. You don't even know who I am. You're asking me the stupidest questions. Like, all due respect. Yo, Google, learn, and I'll come back. We can catch up. But I'm not going to play myself.
Right.
I'm not looking for no clout. So that's what really hurts me, that we're living in a world, and I love social media. I come from non-social media. I come from beepers, rolls of quarters, and payphones. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I come from a map, an atlas, when we go around on the road. These kids now, they can do GPS, text, this, that, and they feel they're entitled. But social media is a gift and a curse. All I'm saying is, if you're going to pick up a mic, and or a camera, or you're going to sit down, because everybody's got a podcast now, everybody want to interview people. This is different because of who you are and the questions you ask. Learn, educate, and don't be embarrassed to really educate yourself on who that person is. Because we're all somebody. I hate when people say, and they tell their kids in the household, oh, he's a celebrity. We're all celebrities. If you're going to dictate and tell your children to only treat them right because they're celebrities, you're raising your kids wrong. Because you know what? We all celebrities. And I tell it all day long, like, you want to talk, you're a celebrity. Young fella, young lady, you're a celebrity. Because guess what? We all dying one day. Yeah. We're not on this earth forever, right? You cut us, we're all bleeding red. We might not be buried all the same because there's different religions, but we're all the same. We all go to the bathroom. We all eat. Hopefully everybody takes a shower every day, brush their teeth. If you're blessed, because you know what? We take sometimes toilet paper for granted, a toothbrush for granted. We take a meal for granted. There's so many people out here homeless, people starving. When I got sick and I had my prostate issue, I took a lot of things for granted, including urinating. You know what I'm saying? Right. So never take nothing for granted.
That's good. So as we kind of close out on Nip, I just wanted to know, what gems did you pick up from your time with Nipsey, and are there any pieces of wisdom that still guide you today of anything that you've learned from Nip?
Man, they keeping that marathon going. He instills so much on everybody around his team that, wow, every time I see something like, wow, salute, 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 right? Again, man, you know, what I picked up from him is, man, I learned a lot from him. You know, we would argue. I'm like, Nip, we got to make a radio record. He's like, man, let radio chase us. We're not chasing radio. Most people chase radio. Most people try to make a radio record. And unfortunately, just so you know, these days, no one even knows what a record is, because we could love something and the world didn't love it. They rather love some stuff that we don't love, which is garbage. But these days, no one knows what a hit record is. But he would always say, man, we're not chasing nothing. Right. We're not chasing nothing. We're going to build this and build this and build this. And, you know, he had a great guy that I introduced him to named Big Bob. Guy's a marketing genius. At the end of the day, like, again, I'll say it over and over, smartest artist I ever met. I learned a lot from him. And I'm sure he learned a lot from me. He was just different, man. Like, I'll tell you another story, man. We were going to go do the Def Jam game. It was a video game. Shout out Sophie, man. Sophie, man. She sent me some pictures recently of me with my BlackBerry taking a picture of him doing the video game footage in Brooklyn. But I only fly Delta. And he's like, man, we flying Virgin, bro. I only fly Virgin Airlines. And he's like, you gotta rock. And I had to sit in the middle seat. And I hate the middle seat. I'm like, nah, we got to go do this Def Jam game. And I remember we shared a room in Chinatown, bro. Nip would always have he always wanted a hot tea or a Red Bull. Man, just, you know, again, man, there's so many great memories. I have so many pictures of Nip. So much footage. There's a lot of footage online of me, him, and Khaled. We the best studios. Me and Nip in Hollis, Queens. I took Nip to the Fantasy Factory where he skateboarded, because we were working with Rob Dyrdek's cousin Drama, not DJ Drama from Atlanta. Drama, I remember Drama from the show. Yeah, so we used to go to his Fantasy Factory. He was skating. So when he passed, there was a lot of footage online that I filmed on a flip camera. I let my nephew just put it on YouTube, and everybody was saw Nip skate. They're like, damn, he skateboards and stuff. But only thing, man, that changed about Nip, size of his clothes, man. So when I first met him, he had on Adidas Campus or Chucks, high white socks, blue Dickie shorts, long white tee, a Yankee hat, and you know, as he grew, he just started more fashionable, tighter stuff. That was the only thing that changed about him, but the best, man. Rest in peace, Nip.
Man, I really did love Nip from afar, and I was blessed through you to meet him a few times, and I was kind of telling, you know, one of my team, you know, earlier that I really wished that I was gonna have that moment to actually sit down and really soak more game up from him, because every time you introduced him to me, it was a high and by. But he always showed me love. He always showed me respect. He always made me feel welcomed, as if like I could be around him and just chill, right? So I always thought I was gonna have another moment with Nip. I always thought, oh, I'll be back in LA in a few months and I'll run into Nip and I'll tell him how much I really do love him, and I'll tell him how much I really want to soak some game up from him. And he passed away. So it was a little, it was sad for me, and I was telling her, I was only like 6 when Tupac and Biggie died, but I felt it when Nipsey died.
You know what it is?
Because it was somebody I knew. It was somebody I saw. It was somebody that I really loved his music from day one,
Tomorrow's not promised, so opportunity will knock all the time.
Right.
If you have the opportunity to sit down with somebody, you got to grab it, because tomorrow's not promised. And a lot of people wait, and they miss that situation. Like, damn, I should have, could have, would have. But he was given a lot of game.
Yeah.
And he was getting a lot of game from reading a lot of books, too. Yeah. People always say, yeah, I'm a Nip fan. I'm like, really? When did you become a Nip fan? But if you don't know that Nip got a song with Drake, you really ain't a Nip fan or a Drake
Killer.
fan.
Come on, I know that one.
And a lot of people don't know that. Got a song called Killer.
That's my song.
So it was way before. Like J. Cole, Drake, they used to come
with
see.
Lloyd?
Yeah,
that was a single,
There's
really.
footage of me at the video shoot.
Yeah.
There's footage of on the minute.
That's what I'm saying. I've been a Nip fan from that
of course.
time.
And Nip, we were in the hood shooting, and Nip was like, yo, Maniac, you get on the camera. And they turned the camera on me on the flip cam. But again, again, that's not knowing who someone is. You're jumping on the hype after he passed away, or you jumped on it because you heard about it in a mixtape, or so on and so forth. Again, don't jump on the hype.
Right.
We leaders, we're not followers.
Right.
Most people are followers, not leaders. They jump on the bandwagon after. You get it? I was around Justin Bieber when no one wanted to sign him. Matter of fact, me and Nip sitting in Sony. Justin Bieber was playing his guitar, he's lefty, and me and Nip were there. Because Nip was signed to Epic. A lot of people don't even know that Charlie Walk signed Nip to Epic Records. It wasn't even a rap label. And Justin couldn't even get a deal nowhere. You know what I'm saying? And then I wound up going on tour with Justin for a year. So Scooter believed in him. When you believe in something, that's all that matters. You're going to get 9 people to say, I don't believe in it. Cool. I believe in it. No problem. You're going to get 9 no's to 1 yes. No problem.
Right.
You're going to catch more L's than wins. No problem.
Right.
So you understand what I'm saying?
Because you're still getting the yes and you're still getting the win.
Yeah, just be prepared that everything ain't going to win.
Right. No,
but when you strike,
sure.
you're going to strike big.
No, that's for sure. That's for sure. Yeah, man, that's only one thing I regretted was not being able to fully tell Nip that. But rest in peace to Nipsey.
Yeah,
Great
and the
dude.
lesson here is that if you see an opportunity and you see that
Take
person,
it.
you got to take because you might not see them tomorrow.
Yeah.
We're at the Grammys yesterday, and there was this Dutch artist with us. Because I have a publishing company, my guy Thomas, CTM, and she's never been to Grammys.
Shout out to Thomas. I know Thomas.
Never been to the United States, never been to LA, none of that. And she hit the floor running. She ran up on Billie Eilish. She ran up on everybody, man. She didn't give a damn. I'm like, yo, you're an animal. You're a beast. Because you know what? Closed mouth don't get fed.
Right. And it reminds me of something. I was at an event the other day, and it wasn't a celebrity. It was a friend that I've known for a really long time. And I ran into him. I haven't seen him in years. And I hugged him with 2 arms. And I was like, don't think I'm weird. I said, but I want to start giving love to people I truly love when I see them, because I don't know when I'm going to see you again. I don't know when I'm going to see you again.
I don't shake hands. I hug people.
Right.
Because I don't know when I'm going to see them again.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you something, man, that I really never dropped. But the sacrifices I made to have the relationships I had, people couldn't handle.
Right.
Now, when I say this, every day we leave our house, we're risking our life. Okay? And I've been outside since the 70s. Okay? I was arrested when I was 13 years old. I was in Spofford. But what I'm saying by that is every tour bus I got on with Bone Thugs and Harmony, people don't realize this. When you're working, the tour bus driver's sleeping. When you're sleeping, the bus driver's up. God forbid we sleeping and we sound asleep in those bunks, and the tour bus driver falls asleep and the bus crashes and we could die. Every time I was on private planes with Sean Kingston, when he was at the top of his game, that plane could have crashed. Every time I jumped in vans with Fat Joe driving around this country because he wouldn't fly, the van could have crashed. Every time I was in the hoods or the strip clubs or those small clubs with artists trying to catch a bag and building to get the DJ to play the records, could have been a shootout or something. So I sacrificed my life every day I leave my house to build my relationships. That's why I don't give my relationships to anybody. And that's why tomorrow's not promised. When you see people you love, I don't shake hands, we hug.
It's deep. All right, let's jump into Cannabis.
No problem.
what got you into the cannabis business as you diversified your portfolio? Because I know you don't smoke. I know this for sure. I knew you for. I smoke.
Yeah,
you know, it's been came
smoke.
out. But Unc don't smoke.
No.
But you've been successful in cannabis. What made you want to diversify into that?
Well, I just started taking edibles, man. I sleep great.
Okay.
But I'll
There
be
you
honest
go,
with you, man. I thought the music industry was bad. Cannabis industry bad. 99.9 bad. Bad people.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned a lot. I don't smoke, and I wouldn't know the difference. I can't even smell the difference, right? I got into it on a humble. A gentleman reached out to me and said, we got this vertical license in Maywood, California, and we're looking for a brand. He got my number from a lawyer in the music business, and brought up Cypress Hill, brought up Snoop Dogg, brought up Wiz Khalifa, Bone Thugs and Harmony, and he said they weren't big enough. In hindsight, I will give the gentleman he was right, because just because you smoke weed and you rap about weed, and back then you don't have your own brand, you're not a brand in weed, so you can't open a store. Mm-hmm. Wiz had a deal over in Canada. That's what stopped this deal. Mm-hmm. But make a long story short, fast forward to a girl named Melissa Cooper that worked for a company called Ish Entertainment. They do a lot of docs, reality shows, scripted shows. When Michael Hirschenbaum used to work at VH1, I said to the older gentleman, why don't we do a documentary on this place? It's going to be the first vertical place. And vertical is distribution, manufacturing, cultivation, retail, and delivery. Yep. And we were sitting on these milk crates. And she was there, and we're going to figure out how we could do a documentary. And Berner FaceTimed me. And I helped Berner with a lot of his features. Like, Berner has some great features because of me. Yes. Rod Waves, the DMXs, rest in peace, the T Grizzlies, and the list goes on. I've helped Berner with a lot of his features. And he FaceTimed me, and there was a gentleman painting. Mm-hmm. And when I left, that gentleman originally called me and said, hey, man, you know that guy, whoever was on the FaceTime with you? I don't even think he knew the guy's name. He said, that's what we want. And I was like, really?
Wow.
So I called Berner. He said, I'm not interested. I'm like, all right, cool. And I was holding this story, man, to do on the first smoke of the day, man. And he said, I'm not interested. And this guy would not stop calling. So one day Berner's like, all right, Steve, all right, tell him to come up to the Bay and we'll meet. And this is way before this Cookies Enterprises and all that stuff. There might have been, him and Ja had this strain called Girl Scout Cookies, and they might have a Cookies t-shirt. There was no dispensaries. I think they went through a company called Connected with their stuff. But again, I flew up the day before. They came, well, the guy was supposed to come by himself, and we go to lunch with him, and he comes with two other guys. And Berner's like, yo, Steve, I told him to come by himself. Well, you told him to come by himself. And we had this meeting, and they were like, yo, we want to open a store. I want to call it Cookies. And Berner was like, I'm not interested. So weeks went by, and they kept calling, and I was like, the gentleman kept calling him. Berner was like, all right, Steve, let's take a meeting. So he came down with Ja, and we went into this place, which is now called Cookies Maywood. This was, man, years and years ago, 7, 8 years ago. And they gave me a chain with a diamond cookies piece. They gave him a Rolex. They had like 50 pounds of weed. And Berner said, I'm not interested. And he kept hopping on. And eventually it happened. And Cookies Maywood opened. And then it exploded. And I'll leave it at that.
So the whole time, Berner was not interested.
No,
and
he was
look
not
what
interested.
it did for everything.
No, he was not interested.
That Maywood store was no, and it's still crazy.
And that launched a lot of other cookie stores, and now his empire. But again, back then, he didn't want to do it.
He didn't see it.
No, well, he was telling me reasons which I understood why he didn't want to do it.
I get it.
And I helped him guide through it. And I don't know, it's a gift and a curse. Maybe we shouldn't have did it. Maybe we shouldn't have did it. Now I look at hindsight to see like all the stuff that came out of it. But, you know, it led to a lot of things. So it led to the Hip Hop Museum, recording studio, dispensary, cultivation we have, which is iconic, which everybody's been to. It opened doors to have cookies globally. Mm-hmm. And but I learned a lot. And what I learned was you got to be vertical in this game. And a lot of people are not vertical. Yep. They don't own the real estate, or they don't own the license, or they don't own the IP, or they don't have cultivation to feed the retail, or they don't have distribution, or they don't manufacture. So with Rollin' J's, my whole new endeavor that I've been doing for the last 2 years, and we're opening a bunch of stores, we own everything vertically. Thank God to my partner, Frank, who's financially there and knows business on a high level and is a realtor real estate entrepreneur, we could do all that because we want to exit one day. A lot of people can't exit in the cannabis business or any business because they don't keep P&Ls, and they don't own all that stuff vertically. So we're gonna build it up. We're opening a store on Lower East Side, near Catch Deli. We're opening in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. We got 2 in Massachusetts, Greenfield and Holyoke. We got Lancaster, California. And everything's vertical. And we're going to just keep going and going, and then we'll exit one day.
It's dope. That's dope that you were able to come into a business that, once again, you didn't fully understand, but you knew how to do business. And that kind of helped you kind of navigate through everything.
I knew how to do business. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Because you could be a rapper, but not know the business.
Exactly.
And you could be a businessman and not be a rapper. Mm-hmm. See, everybody thinks that just because someone's a rapper, they're a businessman, and they're not.
Right.
They're not. That's why you surround yourself with people smarter than you, and you get a manager, a road manager, a tour manager, an agent, a lawyer, a business manager, so on and so forth. So I know business.
Yeah.
So I had to guide Berner and be like, yo, this is how we're going to do it. And at the end of the day, they try to give me a bag. I'm not a bag guy. I'm an equity guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
always.
I'm taking the bag and the equity.
Yeah, take both.
You know, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. They just, everybody, I don't talk bag talk. Everybody want to talk bag talk. Everybody get a bag. Right. If you're a real hustler, you're a real businessman, you're a real worker, you're a real entrepreneur, you're always going to get money. Mm-hmm. And I must tell you this, money comes and goes, but history stays. Mm-hmm. As long as you keep making money, money comes and goes, but history stays. As long as you keep making history, you're going to make money. Mm-hmm. And money don't make real people, man. A Rolex don't make me, a car don't make me, and money definitely don't make me. I go out to all types of affairs, black tie affairs in a sweatsuit with shell toes on. That's come from your uncle. So at the end of the day, it's what's inside you, in your mind, and your heart, and your soul. All the other stuff is materialistic stuff, but don't make a real person.
So I'm curious to know, what did you think when you started to see me, the son of the Reverend, stepping into cannabis advocacy?
I want to know if your dad said it's okay. Because, you know, with all due respect, your dad smoked weed in the past.
A lot of it. He had a collapsed lung from it. I know the stories.
And you know what? Crazy Bone had a collapsed lung too. He was in a coma for 9 days. So God bless Crazy Bone that he's still going. You know, I work with those guys 30 years. You know, looking at you as, you know, where you come from, again, look, nothing's wrong with cannabis. You know why I say that? No one's died of overdose from cannabis. Nope. We opened a treatment center called the Heavenly Center, and we were using cannabis to help people. So no one's died. How alcohol and cigarettes are legal and are on every commercial and every billboard is ridiculous to me because so many people have died from alcohol and cigarettes and tobacco. Let's keep it real. So cannabis, no one's died or overdose. So only God could judge. I couldn't judge you.
Right.
And it wasn't like you were drinking, you know, a bottle of alcohol every day. I'd be like, yo, come on, you're going to destroy your liver. Don't do that. And it wasn't like you were on cocaine or heroin or crack or stuff like that. So cannabis, it's a healthy drug.
Right.
And soon it'll be federally legal and the numbers will show.
I remember.
So I didn't judge you.
I remember coming to your studio and you seeing me smoking like every now and then. You used to just be staring at me like.
Yeah, because it was awkward, man.
This guy's smoking weed. My nephew.
I'm like, I wonder if his dad knew.
It's funny.
But you know what? You know, your dad knows by now.
Oh, he definitely knows.
But again, it's not illegal, I feel.
Him and I spoke about my advocacy, and he respects the way I'm doing it. It's not like I'm out here like, smoke weed. It's I'm educating, I'm advocating, I'm, you know, trying to tell people that the right things about weed. I'm trying to educate on what it does affect. I'm trying to educate on what it does benefit you. How can you benefit off cannabis? Not only equity side, but like for your mental health and for everything, really. So like, I think me stepping into the cannabis advocacy has been better than me just saying, hey, I smoke a bunch of weed. Everybody knows, okay, you smoke weed, cool. But with your platform, what can I give to the cannabis community? Because like, you know, I'm doing a documentary on a guy named Corvain Cooper who was serving a life sentence for 40 tons. He got, you know, pardoned by Trump. But those are the type of stories I'm telling of people that are put away for this plant that you just said. It's not a bad plant. It helps a lot of people.
You were doing cannabis something positive like 2 years ago. Yeah. You had a bunch of people around you. Remember we were talking about a lot of that stuff. And hopefully we're gonna have this cannabis TV show we're working on. But I'm gonna tell you something that. You know, there was a young lady that performed at the Grammys yesterday, and then she took an award and she talked about these music labels like mental health issues and health insurance. Like, I've been fighting that. Maybe I don't got the big enough voice, but, you know, mental health and health issues in the entertainment community, with all due respect to Music Cares, it's like, why don't artists have health insurance, but the executive has health insurance? Right. We're losing so many younger artists right now for mental health, and we're losing so many people that are ex-veterans, military people for mental health, and they're homeless. you drive up and down different parts of different communities. People are dealing with mental health. So mental health is a big thing, and I'm glad you brought that up, and we need to, push that even more. But you're doing positive things in cannabis. But again, where I come from, and your dad comes from, people go to get 20 years for an ounce of weed. Now you're walking up and down the street smoking weed.
Yeah, for sure.
So, things change, times changes, so on and so forth. Again, to me, it's not federally legal, but no one died of overdose over cannabis.
Speaking of mental health in the hip-hop and music game, I do want to shout out a certain organization that I've worked with called Backline. They provide therapists for everybody in the music industry, from artists to roadies to music managers to road managers to all those people. So shout out to Backline. I've worked with you guys. I saw he brought that up, and I didn't want to not tell my viewers that there is a organization out there that
and I want to touch on this, and that's a great organization. I'm going to do some research on it. But
yeah, I can hook you up with them. They're great people. Like, if you want to do anything
please
with them,
I'm all
they'd love
about
to speak
educating
to you.
and giving back, man, to people going through different things, right? Because everybody is not.
I tried to get on the phone with Kevin Lyles. We spoke when he was still over at 300. And, I tried to get him on the phone because he said he was advocating for mental health for artists, and I was like, hey, I have a funnel for it
to fight the labels to get health insurance. But unfortunately, in a lot of communities, people are scared to go to therapists.
Yeah.
They think that it's not cool to go to a therapist. If I could rewind, I wish I went to a therapist. And it's not too late for me. But people don't think it's cool to go to a therapist. Just like I learned this. Owning a treatment center, Afro-Americans and Latinos didn't want to come to the treatment centers. It was mostly 9 out of 10 Caucasian that would come to treatment because they felt like if they went to treatment, they weren't cool.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't be accepted to me, which was crazy.
Yeah.
Anybody needs help out there, anybody battling addiction, go get treatment. But again, there's a lot of people who want treatment. I mean, who want to say they want treatment but don't really want it. You have to want it. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Speaking of that, I want to talk about the Heavenly Center. You launched an addiction treatment center called the Heavenly Center with Scott Storch, hit producer. Can you share with me what inspired you to start the Heavenly Center and a little bit about the people you help?
Yeah, that's a whole nother story, man, which I don't think I really told. But, talking to Scott real quick, I never knew Scott. Of course I knew who Scott was, but I never worked with him. Okay? And then Scott fell off for 10 years and went underground. He lost $100 million, cocaine, addiction, all that stuff. I wound up working with him, and the last 10 years brought him back to life and had him working with all the young, hot artists in the early stages, even though he wanted to work with the legends that he already worked with. And Cannabis really saved him and helped him. Frank Sid, who's big in treatment, who I grew up with, who's my partner in the Cannabis stuff I'm doing right now, Rolling J's, he had treatment centers around the country. And I was invited to a Christmas party. And I have my own label called Lobel Music Group now, but I never had my own label, and I was always worried about everybody else but me. I was always taking artists to labels when I should have started my own label a long time ago. And he called me. He's like, yo, man, I want to come to L.A. His name is Greg. And he's like, yo, we're going to manage this guy named Sue Surf. I want to sleep on your couch for a week. Free Sue Surf, one of the best battle rappers ever.
Free Surf.
And he's like, I want to learn how to be a manager. And he was in the music business, but he never managed, and he was in the fashion world. I said, come on out. And I told him, yo, meet me at this Christmas party. Right, and it was at a house. And I went in the house. I'm getting the food. I'm sitting down. I'm ready to eat. And he comes with 2 guys. And I said, bro, I told you to come by yourself. I'm not even capable to invite you, but I told you to come. I could pull it off. But you come with 2 guys. And, look, yes, I'm white. Yes, I'm from New York. But people, when I came to Cali, was like, yo, what earth you from? What planet you from? Like, never seen a white guy like you. You know what I'm saying? Most white guys are geeks. Go to New York, the 5 boroughs, white boys bust their gun. They pull out the ketchup. They've been to the island. They tat it up. They work out. Some call them Guidos, blah, blah, blah. So he had, 2 other white boys with him from Massachusetts. And I get in the party. I'm eating. I said, yo, Greg, go in there and just float around, bro. Anybody says something, say you with Steve. So I'm sitting there eating, and one of the guys comes over and he hands me his phone. But I don't even know these guys. I'm looking at him like, I'm trying to eat my food. Right. And I'm trying to mingle, politic, network. He's like, someone wants to talk to you. I'm looking at this guy, I don't even know you. He hands me the phone, and it says doctor something. So he on the phone, and the guy's like, can we curse?
Yeah.
He's like, yo, motherfucker, fuck you. I'm looking at this guy, give me the phone, like, yo, I'm gonna deal with you after. But like, who the fuck is this? He didn't stop. He didn't stop and stop. And after a while, I said, yo, who the fuck are you? Who is this? He goes, Steve, it's Frank Sid. Now, I didn't speak to Frank for a few years because I got caught up in the music industry. I'm traveling the world, and I can't speak, and you just catch people different times. And I just had to really break this down to my sister. I have an older sister. Like, when she would call, I'd be around the music, tall, but everything's loud. I'm like, and now when I got sick, we built, and I told her, I said, Bonnie, it's smoke and mirrors. And I had no balance, and I couldn't do the things I want to do. It ain't like you call someone, you have a normal conversation. I got 20 guys behind me screaming, yelling, and she understood that. So when Frank hung up, he's like, I'll call you in a few days, and we'll catch up. So I look at this dude, and I'm like, yo, like, I wanted to fuck you up. But yo, I love you, bro. You put me talking to Frank.
Yeah.
So I never really asked him how he knew Frank. So time went by. We built a relationship. He wanted to rap, like everybody wants to rap. And we built a relationship, and he's like, yo, man, I got this idea I want to pitch to you and Frank. And I spoke to Frank, and Frank's going to stop from China, because Frank would go to China about a lot of things because he's got his own jet. He's going to stop. He's going to come see you. Mm-hmm. And I felt like you guys haven't seen each other in so long. We'll meet, and you'll see each other, and I'll give you this, the proposal. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I get to see Frank. I haven't seen him in years, and he comes, and he's wearing this Adidas suit. I've never seen Frank in a sweatsuit, sneakers, shorts in his life, and we grew up since we're 15. And I'm like, damn, I never seen that type of Adidas suit. He's like, yeah, I knew it. I got it in China. I'm like, wow. So we sat down, and the guy pitched us some idea, and it was like a podcast thing in Atlanta, and we're going to open up this whole big conglomerate and stuff like that. I'm like, Atlanta? We don't even live in Atlanta. So me and Frank got to caught up. I was like, hey, Frank, I'll drop you at the airport. I think I'm going to LAX. I'm going to Millionaire in Burbank. Frank's got his own jet. I'm like, wow, he's doing great for himself. And he's like, yo, I own treatment centers, blah, blah, blah. So I told the guy, Jamie, I said, we need to figure something out, bro. Like, maybe we should get into the treatment business with Frank, but do something different. Maybe use cannabis, and maybe we do it with DMX. Mm-hmm. But DMX was a liability at the time, and we wound up helping DMX towards the end. Mm-hmm. Frank and him got really close. Frank was flying him on his jet to all the places trying to help him. And then I started working with Scott. I was like, you know what? We should do it with Scott. And I pitched it to Scott. I introduced him to Frank. He's like, let's do it. Mm-hmm.
It was a no-brainer.
And we opened the Heavenly Center, and Frank came up with the name to Heavenly Center, THC. And we had Sober Studios in there, and we had all types of different treatment things there. And every Thursday we had Cali Clean, where people would come and speak to our guests. And we had outsiders come. It was like an AA meeting. And it was very successful. Our relapse rate was very low. We used cannabis. We changed people's lives. Again, we were ahead of our time. Mm-hmm. I've been on reality TV, podcasts, ahead of my time. And Frank had to sell it with his roll-up when he exited all his treatment centers. But to tell you, to end the story is, me and the guy, Jamie, started getting close because he was living out here in Orange County. And I was like, bro, can I ask you a question? Like, but you know what? Hold on. I didn't ask him. Wait. So I don't want to put this rapper's name out. You know him really well. Queens legend. I don't want to put his name out. He called me and said, yo, my group mate and my cousin, he needs some serious help. I had no one's health insurance. So I said, yo, the Heavenly Center's not open yet. We were building it. Mm-hmm. But we were posting a lot so people knew I was going to open a treatment center. Yeah. So I called the guy, Jamie. And I said, yo, Jamie, I need a scholarship. People don't understand this. In treatment centers, especially when Frank did it, they would give scholarships to people who didn't have
the funds
health insurance or the funds, because it costs a lot of money to go to treatment, you know?
It does.
And Frank would go around to different states and meet people if they were homeless. Like, you really need treatment? I'll put you in a scholarship. And that was a blessing. Wow. And he made this thing for a guest that passed away called Elliot Bag. And in the bag, toothbrush, deodorant, towel, blanket, and he would give it out to the homeless people. So I called the guy, Jamie, and I said, yo, Jamie, can you help me with this guy? And he was a fan of this guy. He's like, yeah. So I connected them, and that gentleman happened to go to Florida to go get help, and his mother lived in Florida, so he was able to stay with his mother. Mm-hmm. And Jamie scholarshiped him for like $50,000. Mm-hmm. I wish I could say his name, but I can't. I'll tell you off the record,
we don't need to.
And Jamie helped him. One day I get a call. Jamie was going. He's like, yo, I'm going to go down to Florida and see my kids, and I'm gonna go visit such and such. I'm like, oh, dope, you know? He gets there, he checks in a hotel, about to go meet him. He has a heart attack and dies. Jamie was young, in his 30s. He's a little overweight, and he died, had a heart attack. So I called that guy, the artist. I said, yo, remember such and such? He's like, yeah. I said, just passed away. You need to go to the funeral. He said, I don't go to funerals. I'm like, well, you going
go
now?
To this one.
I said, this guy saved your life, bro. And he went, and he got to meet his kids and his mom, and they were like, oh, my God, he's such a fan of yours, da-da-da. And it was emotional, right? So then, after a couple months, I'm with Frank one day, and I said, Frank, can I ask you a question? Like, how did you know the guy Jamie was going to see me? And when I gave him the phone, it didn't say Frank said. Here, let me tell you what happened. He goes, he called me, and I always stayed in touch with him. I said, well, how'd you know him? He goes, I saved his life. I put him in my treatment center.
And he saved somebody else's life.
Frank saves a lot of people's lives. He said he was in my treatment center, and now he got a job in California, in Orange County, but I helped him out a lot. And he stayed cool with me.
Yeah.
Frank's a cool guy. And he was like all excited. And Frank said, why are you all excited? He said, I'm with my buddy Greg, and I'm going to meet this guy named Steve. He's going to be at this party. He's in the music industry. And Frank goes, who? What's his last name? He goes, Steve Lobel. Frank goes, get the fuck out of here. I grew up with Steve. I haven't spoke to him in years. It goes back to not having balance. I didn't go to Frank's wedding. I missed tons of weddings, tons of bar mitzvahs, tons of Thanksgivings, tons of birthdays, tons of everything. Everybody got mad at me. So Frank got upset that I didn't go to his wedding. It hurt him, and I understood that. And I had to tell him when we reconciled, like, yo, bro, in the music industry, man, I had to be everywhere and try. It's not what everybody thinks, man. It's anybody in the music industry have balance. He said, I'm going to see Steve Lobel. He's all excited. He goes, this is what you're going to do. You're going to go on your phone. You're going to change the name. And when you see Steve, you hand him the phone. I'm like, wow. And Frank's a smart guy. I'm like, wow. So he tells me he met him, saved his life, told him to change the number. And I was like, Frank, do you know he's with Greg Keller? He's like, you always mention this guy Greg, but never said his last name. Because Greg grew up with Frank. So this guy Jamie was always saying one names, but never said the names. And I was like, wow, this is crazy.
That's crazy.
And then I came up with the Heavenly Center. He came up with the name. We opened Heavenly Center.
It's all God. I mean,
it's all God. Rest in peace to Jamie.
Right.
But at the end of the day, like, he was never mentioning last names because Frank would have said, oh, well, I know it.
So now that the Heavenly Center is no longer running, as you just said, is there any ways that it helped you having that at that time? Is there anything personally that just being around that and being a part of that, did it help you in any way personally? Hell yeah. It showed me that there's so many people out here with addiction to all types of drugs and alcohol. And wow. And I'm addicted to sugar, which is a bigger addiction than heroin. It's hard to get off sugar. And I got gout, and that's what got me off sugar. Because I was a sugar addict, and I don't even have that much sugar no more because that's leads to diabetes and all types of things. It taught me so much that I spent a lot of my time there. And I'm not a therapist. I wasn't working there. I'm an owner. But when we did the Cali Clean meetings on Thursdays, I would bring a lot of people from the entertainment business, and they would come and speak. And I would hear their stories, and they would really open up. And behind the scenes, these guys would go into meetings, and they weren't talking about it. So you see different sides of different people. And I've had everybody come speak about their addiction and how it ruins families, and it ruins people's lives. And, man, so many people from the music industry is reaching out to us to help them. And, you know, you can't, as a HIPAA law, you can't tell and you can't talk about who you're helping. And there was so many people that we helped. And I'll let them tell it. Some of them went online and talked about it. It was just giving back, man. It was giving back and seeing a whole different side of things that I was never in that business and seeing addiction on a different level, man. And when, you know, our guys would graduate, they would run up the stairs and they would put their handprints on the wall, and it would just show their growth, you know. And ABC News, TMZ, they all ran stories on it because they just thought it was remarkable. And we saved a lot of lives with the help of God, man. But addiction is real. Anybody out there with addiction, you got to have and want help.
And we need people out here with health insurance so they can go to treatment centers unless they're going to scholarship them. So, yeah, I learned a lot from that. And it was a humbling experience. And I just spoke to Frank the other day about this. Like, we need to open another one.
For sure.
Not in L.A.,
I
though.
went there,
Not in
and I
Cali.
remember coming to tour it in the past. And
Yeah, you did come. Not in Cali, though.
Yeah, it was really great. And, you know, I thought that it was something that was really, you know, special for people. So it is.
Yeah, I do different things, man. When everybody's going left, I go right. Everybody going right, I go left. I do things that I think out the box and don't think the norm. Everybody wants to come to me with these ideas. I already did that. What do you mean you already did that? Yeah, I did live with Steve Lobel. I don't want to do podcasts. I did it. I was ahead of my time. I've been on reality show, Missy Elliott Road to Stardom, Millionaire Matchmaker. I've been on so many different manager celebrity. I'm always ahead of my time. Ahead of the cannabis, you know, going legal, opening up vertically in different places. So, and then the treatment center was never done before using cannabis, and now everybody's trying to do it.
Yeah.
So, you know.
I'd say your story is one of perseverance, sacrifice, and transformation. And I heard you speak about this a few times of saying you've missed birthdays, you've missed bar mitzvahs, you've missed weddings, you missed a lot. So do you have any regrets about the personal sacrifices you've made? And how did you keep yourself happy and invest in yourself on a daily basis?
I live with regret every day. I regret I'm not married. I regret I have no kids. I regret not as many people I worked with because some get amnesia and disloyal. But with me, in that case, it was 99.9 that they kept it funky with me and real. I just happened to run into one situation recently in my whole career. People got amnesia and stuff, but I'm like, no problem. Ungrateful, you know? I live with regrets every day, man.
Shouldn't live with them, man.
No, I know, but I'm being honest with you.
Live with the fact that they can't be changed.
I'm being honest with you, but I live with that as a lesson to be learned. I missed everything look, one thing about your family, you guys stay with the family functions. I wasn't around for family functions because I was managing artists, and it's a thankless job, and I'm traveling the world. I'm here, I'm there, I'm in studios, blase, blase. So now I try not to regret nothing because life is short. But it is what it is. Yeah. But I've definitely regretted some things and lived with regret, but you have to learn from that and move forward and stay positive.
Use your regret as lessons.
And that's why I spend a lot of time with my father now and the people that I love, because I don't want to live with regrets no more.
I love it. Final reflections, my brother, my uncle. Let's leave our listeners with some powerful takeaways. What's one mindset shift you believe every aspiring artist or entrepreneur should embrace to navigate on their journey?
Learn what you're trying to do. And when I say that is, you might be an entrepreneur or an artist. I don't mean just learn how to rap or learn how to make money. Learn of all the back business that goes in with all these things. You just can't be a rapper and not understand how it works, from royalties to ancillary to publishing to splits. You can't be an entrepreneur and not knowing about QuickBooks and P&Ls and exit strategies. People don't take the time to learn that. You get it? So learn all about that. You know, you have to have common sense, which is not common. We don't take no for an answer where we come from, and that will help you as an artist or an entrepreneur. Having a team that we talked about.
Yep.
Having structure.
Yeah, structure is important.
Balance. You got to be able to communicate. I overly communicate. Got to be organized. People don't look at you like you're not even organized.
Right.
Like, what's going on here? You understand? Keep your word. If you can't do something, just say you can't do it and just say, I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people just like, they fumble that and they're like, yeah, but they really can't do that, and it backfires in the long run. Right. Just be yourself at all times. I know I am, and I feel comfortable who I am. This is who God made me.
Yeah.
That's why I never got tattoos, never got an earring. My mother said, don't get a tattoo, you won't be buried in a Jewish cemetery. Don't get an earring, they're for girls, no disrespect.
My dad used to tell me the same thing. I never got earrings because that's what he grew up on. I remember I asked for him once, and he was like, those are for girls. And that was the last time I ever asked him.
That's where we come from. And, you know, I'm me who I am. I'm Adidas. I'm me. I have to be who I am. Like, you know, I went to the Grammys, I wore a suit, but I had to wear Adidas and I had to wear a V-neck. I have to be comfortable in my skin to be me. You know, to sitting at the table, I got to be me. I can't be someone else. So the biggest thing, the biggest gem is learn, educate. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And learn from people who've been through the experiences and their trials and tribulations and the knowledge that they gained from these things. A lot of people in the music business looked up to Nip. He educated himself. He read books. He asked questions. A lot of people are scared to ask questions. Like, I'm not going to ask that question. I'm too good for that. No. Closed mouth don't get fed. Closed mouth don't get fed. So again, all that stuff, entrepreneurs, anything, any business you're trying to get into, because now, because of social media and the internet, there's tons and tons of people trying to do the same thing you're doing. What's going to make you step out the box or be different? Be yourself, be innovative, be creative, and go with your gut and believe in God.
Amen. So, last question here. I know you coin yourself and you are ahead of your time with a lot of things that you've done and a lot of things you do. So, with talks of banning TikTok, where do you see social media going in the future, and how do you think people can build a genuine connection with people with new social media sites if TikTok does truly get banned?
I'm not cocky. I'm confident that as a man who I am, and I've always been ahead of my time, it's documented. You can figure it out and look and see. You know, I think Trump's going to save it, and he's going to be the hero. So now everybody's going to ride with Trump. Like, he saved it for us. Especially the people who don't even know who Trump is, or their mother and father didn't like Trump. He saved it. That's a business play.
Yeah.
He's going to have one of his billionaire buddies buy it to save the day. I'm not on TikTok personally, but when I did start a TikTok, I was putting educational stuff up there. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't dancing and I wasn't doing that. And Again, I grew up with no social media. I love social media. I love Instagram. Yeah, I'm on Facebook, but that was to catch up the people I grew up with. Yeah, I was on Twitter because Nip was like, yo, Twitter's a big thing, and Nip communicated a lot on Twitter, and now it's X. Again, I love Instagram, and I set up to go to my Facebook. That people I grew up with sees what I'm doing, because everybody I grew up with, most of them was like, he ain't gonna be shit.
Right.
Oh, he's in the rap business. He ain't, you know, so on and so forth.
Rap was a fad for a long time, right?
And look, it's 52 years old now.
So where do
you
you see the future of social media going? Do you think that it's going to continue to be a tool for people to build genuine connections, or you think there's going to be another platform that comes and takes over, or how do you see it?
If I could see the future, I wouldn't be here. I'd be a multi-trillionaire on an island chilling, drinking a virgin pina colada. But, you know, me with relationships, I don't use social media to build relationships. I do it organically, because you can't trust people in these messages or DMs and stuff, and it's crazy. The worst thing I hate is, and I don't really like the word hate, when you meet people like, I'm a big TikToker, or I'm a YouTuber, or I'm an influencer. And I'm like, what's your resume? What's your stripes? Just because you're making money, but you don't really know the back history of what we talked about.
Putting the groundwork.
Learning about who's who. And even OnlyFans, like, that's the whole different level. Like, with girls are just making so much money showing. It's like, where's the integrity? Where are the parents at? You got kids having kids, and they're letting them do whatever they want to do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, again, like, there's people making money off TikTok. There's people becoming known. I don't want to say famous. Known off that. Teach his own, man.
Right.
Teach his own. Someone might not like his music, but they might like that person. So you can go listen to a different playlist on Spotify or whatever you listen to. So it's opinions, man. So I can't really speak on the future of any of these social media things. I just hope that, you know, we use all these type of platforms in a positive way. And whatever's going to be is going to be.
I think it's safe to say that, you know, like before in the past and like in the future, no matter where social media goes or the digital sites go, you got to continue to build a genuine connection with your people every way possible you can, whether it's through social media, whether it's in person, whether it's through networking, whether it's showing up through other people, word of mouth. You got to continue to show up.
I will say this. What happens if social media gets banned?
Right.
I mean, TikTok. If they stop TikTok, let's keep it real. There's going to be a lot of people looking for jobs. And it's bad enough to even get a job now. There's going to be a lot of people that might commit suicide. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to have mental health. There's going to be a lot of people who need therapy. And there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be like, their businesses suffer, this suffers, that suffers, right? So again, I didn't think nothing was wrong with it. I just think that from the culture I come from, I rather build things organically than things that go viral, especially in the music business. You get an artist signed just off of TikTok and they built no really career or grind, and it was just because of that and those numbers that are controlled by algorithms. Right. I can't even pronounce that word, right?
Algorithms.
So again, it's just an opinion, man. Like, just be yourself. I like the phrase of work hard work pays off, man. All the other stuff, trying to cheat the game or moving quicker and quicker, I don't know.
I love it. Listen, viewers, I hope if you're an artist or an entrepreneur that you've been taking notes, paying attention. Steve does not do many interviews. I was able to get my uncle to sit down with me just because he's my uncle, like I said. And, I hope you guys were taking notes. I appreciate you for coming to sit with me, really getting deep with certain things that I've never heard you speak about, and I'm sure you've never spoken about. I feel like we had a really great conversation. I've learned a lot more about you just in this little bit of moment. So I really do appreciate you. I thank you for everything that you've given to the hip-hop community and everything that you continue to do for people in not only the hip-hop community, but the mental health space and the addiction space. People like you need to get your flowers because you're an OG in the game, and a lot of people know your name but don't know your game, and I think now they know your game.
I appreciate that, and again, like to everybody who sees this and say, hey, well, he turned me down. I don't like to do interviews.
That's my uncle, y'all. Yeah. And don't worry about him turning you down. I was on his ass all week. I said, Unc, I'm your remember I said, I'm your nephew, Unc.
He put me under pressure.
Don't turn me down.
I can't say no to him. His dad put me in the game, and at the end of the day, like, I will sit down eventually, but again, I'm not looking for clout. I'm not looking to go viral. I'm not looking to be cool. I'm cool. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I don't need to do these type of things to do that and to get my name out there. Like, whoever follows my Instagram and it's We Working, they follow me for a reason. If they send me messages for a reason, it ain't like, other reasons and stuff. So everything with me is organic. And if it's meant to be, it's going to be meant to be, man. So, again, stay tuned. God is the greatest. And hopefully things will transpire and we'll just continue growing into things that we love to do. I'm trying to be a water boy right now for an NFL team because I love football. And people are like, yo, you're crazy. I'm like, no, I want to learn every aspect, It's like, why should I become assistant coach or this
right away that? Because you're big in another world. You need to be able to start from the ground level. You got to learn anything you're trying to get. We talked about this. Like, what's the advice? You got to learn. People don't understand that. So again, he brought up the Run-DMCs and the Jam Master J's. So, he brought it up. He brought the Nipseys. He brought up everything. I don't like to talk about a lot of those type of things because it's the past. But it's important for us to talk to you about it.
I know, but it gets emotional.
You were there, and people think these stories are so inspiring and real because we weren't there. A lot of people weren't there.
But it gets emotional.
And when I speak to you about my dad, I get closer to him through conversations with other people. So with a conversation with you and you're telling me something about Run-DMC or my dad was this or that, I'm learning more about it because he doesn't open up much either, And when I'm able to speak to his old friends or his friends that ran around with him when he was Run.
And the friends that are still alive.
Right, exactly. It's always interesting for me to have these conversations because I learn more and more about him. And I learn more and more that I'm a lot like him, So I think like sitting down with you was very important for me because of the history and because you watched me grow up. You've seen me become who I am today. And, the family always got love for you. The white Russell Simmons, my uncle Steve Lobel. I appreciate all of you for tuning into this episode of the For Good podcast where we focus on the good and never the bad. And we're measured on what we do and not what we have. We'll see you guys next time. Peace. We working.